someplace like that, they could live a Christian life, right? And follow what the Bible says. But do you know what they're not going to do? Have a ordained minister come and say the words that you and your church in Europe think he needs to say, then do the right movement with the right incense that he can't have there, with things that you're saying that they don't have access to, with materials that they need to burn and do all these things. So according to you, they could live a perfectly moral life according to the Bible, but you're going to hell because they didn't do the check boxes that are not in the Bible that you say they need to do to get in there. And that just, again, threw me for a loop because I'm not the smartest guy. So can you show me in the Bible where that is? Well, if we go to catechism, and I understand that, but like, can you show me in the Bible where it says that?
So do you believe that if people don't hear the word of Jesus Christ that they're going to hell?
No, that was a big that was literally the thing that I couldn't.
So they could live in the Amazon and be leading more moral lives than we are leading here.
Yes.
And that most of the Christians
this is where I need to start writing down Bible verses, and I don't know them. But again, it's something where Jesus said they didn't have the truth. Now they do.
But even if
they don't, then they're living again by what they understand as a godly life. And this is where because again, there are tribes in, I want to say it's South America, where I don't know them. Let me take a quick sip. The exacts of it, but it's something like if they have a daughter or a son first, whichever one they don't want, they kill it. And that's the way it is. Like, so if you have a son, it's not a daughter, whatever it is, they murder it and then they do it. But then if they have another son after, it's good. That's their thing. And again, this is where I'm going to take a big step back in a way, because this is I think is important. But with these people, I'll say, I look at them like Hitler. I don't know, to get personal, I was sexually molested as a child. So this is one thing. If I went to heaven and I see my child molester and I see Hitler there, I'm Polish, so I especially don't like Hitler. Some people, Jeffrey Dahmer, I don't know if you know, he repented. And people are like, the priest, they wanted to kill the priest who did that. And that is the most human, they're not wrong. That is the most worldly human feeling. And the power, like when I sit there and think of the fact that God has this power where when I go to heaven, it's difficult for me to say those people did something that erased what they did to me and other people. And that's the beauty of that when I see that, those, again, it's so obvious to me, but I read the Bible. Jesus says, I didn't come to save those that don't need to repent. I didn't come to feed those that are already fed. I came here to be with sinners, people who need to repent. People, thank you. That part blows me away, where people are like, why would he go and sit with Jeffrey Dahmer? Because Jesus would go and sit with Jeffrey Dahmer if he was alive. Because Jeffrey Dahmer, if I had no morality in terms of Jesus right now, I would, for my daughters too, I would have no reason to stop being that sociopath. I could get more monetarily out of people for my daughters, not worrying about what happens to them afterwards. That's like, it's, I don't know, it's an interesting place to be. I say it.
So, okay, if you don't believe that, like, all right, so the dudes over in the Amazon, you don't believe they're going to hell. If they don't hear the word of Jesus, they're not.
Now, this is,
immediately going to hell, right? Is that?
Well, I'm looking for more biblical sources. There's a guy I watch who has some, but again, I tend not to write them down like an idiot, because I'm usually I tend to listen while I'm doing things. I don't like to watch. I only like to listen. But and again, a lot of Christians don't believe in this. So, but it's soul annihilationism. Do you know what that is? Or, in essence, and I'm gonna incredibly oversimplify this. And this was important to me because people ask, again, like, what would happen? What would it take me to not believe in God? And I've answered that question, but I'm not going to go into that. But where the concept is, in essence, first and foremost, when people, I believe, incorrectly think when you die, you're going to wake up in heaven and rejoice. Because the first thing you're going to do is atone for everything that you have done. And I hope people don't understand, like, for me, I am dreading that day, dreading it. So, and I understand why people who have done worse and don't want to do that. So there are, Christopher Hitchens said, if I woke up and was next to Jesus is there, I would say, I don't want to be here, send me to hell. I don't want to be under you. I don't want to be in your North Korean hellhole. And there are people who believe that, who, if they woke up and saw God, that they still would not believe. Those are the people who will go to hell. They're people who will be in heaven and witness, and they will be at the gates and say, I see it. I don't care. I'm going to walk away from all this. That's the way I think hell works. I think everybody's going to...
So you do believe
those
in
people,
hell?
yes.
Yeah.
I believe those... so this is what's going to be hard. I believe those people who are eating cannibals, whatever, if they go to God and they say, oh my God, you are real. I am so sorry. God's going to say, good, we're going to now sit down and talk about how for 60 years you ate in every person, what that did, the harm you caused. We're going to sit there and examine the lives that you've ruined. The parents, you were going to sit there now, here, come talk to, this is the guy who ate your kid. And that is, I would understand why some people would say, you know what, I'm out. I would rather not exist than deal with that. And that's what I think. I don't think it's like you wake up and it's a light switch and you've done it. I don't think the Bible says you're going to burn. Like, even again, we're going to all have our day of judgment. It doesn't say the righteous are good, but the sinners have their judgment, because we're all sinners. We are going to get our judgment for the sins we've done. I hope, like I say, I cannot imagine, like literally, maybe if I think of my kids right now, which is interesting, I can't think of a life where that is not the most... It makes me want to cry thinking about what I'm going to have to atone, like see the people, the things that I've done, and the people that I don't know who it affected. That is going to be so. And then the people I know, the people who I did what I did knowing, that is, again, like, I don't want to deal with that. I wish I could get the forgiveness now, and those people wouldn't give it to me, and I understand. That's going to be so hard for me to deal with. My kids are going to know about that stuff that I did. That sucks. But it's awesome, because like I say, now I don't have a desire to go and take what I want, because it would be really nice to have. It's interesting. Contrition is a beautiful thing.
So, do you believe in like the devil, or like the traditional concept of hell, or what do you...
I struggle and navigate with, because like to me so much of it is semantical or nuanced, because I believe I know there's evil in me. Like, I if you want to call it Satan in me, the devil, it to me that's the same thing, I suppose. I don't know if I believe in a devil or Satan as a being so much as just he is the embodiment. I don't think like going back to it, I don't think an evil, and if you have something who is evil, it can't exist, because if you're evil, you don't, to live is to exist is good. Like you wouldn't even want yourself to exist, because you would have to have existence for you to exist in, and be, again, like, it's kind of self-defeating. So like, it's hard for me to like think there's a thing out, like incarnate being, but I believe what I think, in my opinion, most people say is evil spirits or demons are just the things we have in us. So whether it's
our human nature, then.
But that's why I say I believe human nature is to if you look at most godless societies, like there's that, I guess, inherent violence. There's just a lack of a fear of God, and I don't mean whether it's Jesus. I just mean consequence. Like there's no, I navigate that because I live my life without consequence, but subconsciously. That's what, like, so I don't know what it is like to consciously do that, but I don't know. I navigate that. So like, I don't think Satan did anything to me. I guess, like I say, if anything, it's just a byproduct, like you're saying, human nature. I think, and I'll say this about most religions, are in essence to stop our human nature. Like I just think Christianity is the one that, I don't want to say makes more sense, but when I look at it thoroughly, that it makes more sense. So I don't I don't think hell is a place. I think just hell is once you cease. Like I don't think there's like the lake of fire that they talk about. I've interpreted as again as whether you're going to be the fires of that repentance or burning yourself away. And I think either way it's a choice, you know. And again, this is the only one I can think of off the top of my head where they talk about something like this in the Bible. It's not even accurate, but conceptually is now there, do you know there's a couple of them, but the story of the poor man Lazarus and the rich man who died. And he's saying basically, oh, make him do this, and can you but my point being, if you, and this is where I say, like, some people, it depends on how they view, oh, is that literal, is it allegorical, metaphorical, what is it inspiration, whatever. But what that's telling me is that guy, and this is what I say, like, I realized it, but if I was in hell and I had a chance to talk to God, the first thing I'd be like, what can I do to get out of here? But the first thing Lazarus is saying is, make this guy give, or I'm sorry, they don't even say his name because the rich guy doesn't have a name, but he's saying, make this guy come give me water, make him come serve me in hell, like, and then tell all these people to not get in hell. But he's never saying, like, what do I have to do to get out of here? Because he knows what he would have to do to get out of here. He would have to say, I was wrong. I don't look at Lazarus the same anymore, but he's still, you know, again, like, he doesn't get it. He's slowly wasting away, moving away from God. Like, I want to do a visual thing, but I'm not creative, but just, I'm very simple, and when you can break certain things down into simple things that I can understand them, I like that. My point is, I want to do where I have a camera here facing me, and I just want an example of walking away from God, and why I think of all the things you should never compromise, it's God's principles. Because when you compromise, you'll overlook. You're willing to allow things to happen you wouldn't, to do things contradictory that you know you shouldn't.
So to me, I interpret that as, if you don't have Christ or Christianity, you can't be a good moral human, where I believe you 100% can, and maybe do a little better, but minus that.
But see, in there, the answer is there, because they, you know, even God says, like, if you look at, and again, I don't remember the words, but I don't even think it was Jesus. I think it was one of in the 4 apostles where he said, so, like, when you look at the universe, if you understand it, you appreciate it, and you love it, you'll love Jesus. Meaning, if you don't know Jesus's name and you don't know what the Bible was, but you've lived a good life and you've loved your wife, you took care of your kids, you came upon that guy who needed something and you gave it to him instead of taking from him, you did these things that are all in the Bible, but you don't even speak, you've never heard those words. When you get up there, you're not going to have much of a problem transitioning, because you've respected, again, like, the laws of nature. Again, going back to what I said about what I think the Bible is, again, remove every religious theological thing, a natural way to look at things. I struggle with, do you know what polyamory is? So I struggle with that, and again, the reason is the Bible indicates it's a sin to me. So my whole thing is, well, why? Because again, like, I understand, like, if it says don't do it, well, okay, well, why? Like, what is the practical thing? Hedonistic things, like, what's the problem with going in and just having sex with anybody? Like, what's the problem with that? I'm eventually going to have sex with someone who I don't know. It may be a relative, they may have a disease, they may be an awful person and raise a kid who they murder. Like, again, like,
that may happen just without polyamory as well.
But it increases the chance. Meaning, if I marry you right now, and again, I'm under the assumption, like, we fall in love, so I know everything about you. I'm not going to find out you have a STD. I'm not going to find out you're actually married. I'm not going to find out you are a psychopath. Those are all things I should do before I marry you. Which again is natural.
You can't ever really.
You can. No. Oh no, but well, if you're honest, I think you can. I think a lot of people struggle with the honesty aspect of that. A lot
Some
of people
are so out of touch with themselves they can't be honest.
I know people
about
right
that
now
kind
who
of thing,
again, I'm struggling because there's a lady who she's going through chain problems in life, but she has this attitude again, and this is so like we talked about. She's like, I don't understand it because I just told her I was getting into Christ. She's like, well, you know, I don't understand because I have all these bad things going on in my life, and I'm a good person, and I do all these things, and I'm like, what I'm trying to say is like, I don't know how to tell her without being condescending. You're not. Like, I'm not God and I don't know a lot about you, but I could tell you, being her, several ways that you're not doing things in your life that you should, and if you stop doing them, you could improve. But if I, and again, the issue is, if I said it like that, she's not gonna, I understand that's not very, but I don't know how to say it in a way that doesn't, even if I don't say it like that, that doesn't come, like I say, from your ears to your brain, that's what they're gonna hear.
Yeah,
and
everybody views life through their own lens of experience.
But my biggest issue is, this is where I like talking about biblical teachings I suffer with. God says, in the Bible says, Jesus says, treat other people as you want to be treated. And for me, that's the opposite. I'm more candid and like blunt to, like we're saying, those things I would want people to say to me. And if I say those to people, they get offended. Like, I can't even talk to people like I want to be treated. And what that taught me to do, I think, though, and again, it's another biblical principle, because he talks about meeting people where they are, where I kind of twisted that a little bit, and like, I believe, instead of treating people as they want to be treated, find out how people deserve to be treated. Because like I say, I was a Marine. I had a difficult upbringing, so I don't mind being stern, cussed at. If someone says, hey, pick that up, like, you know, okay. Someone may, well, don't talk to me like that or whatever, which they're not, no side is wrong, but I can't treat people like I want to be treated, and that bothers me. But in a way, it slowed me. Again, that's why I say, going back 40 years with my ego, I've realized, again, I was treating people like I wanted to be treated, but ignorantly, like I say, like thoughtlessly. I just thought, again, if it's something that I would say it this way, they'll interpret it the same way. And if not, then that's their problem. Like, that was the other that I was lacking. Like, it couldn't even be like, maybe I could be understanding, maybe I could tailor it up, maybe, you know, something like, no, like, if they don't get it, that's their problem. Not that that's like a biblical teaching, but in a way it is, like taking that step back and meeting people where they are. My own words, anyway.
Well, sure. That's all you got.
See, I'm still looking for a church. Because like I say, I can't really find a place where people will talk to me. It's a funny story, like, I say, I don't know, I want to do a video about the fact that I'm kind of an exception in everybody's life, but in the opposite way. So I was talking, me and my daughter went to lunch with her friend and her mom. That was just like, anyway. But at that, we were talking a little bit about God, because she's just like and this was like before all this. We're just kind of spitballing. But because she was talking about more like new age views on Christianity. But long story short, there was a pastor at the table next to us. So when he was leaving, he was like, oh, you know, here's my card. I heard you guys talking about God. And again, at that time, I was like, okay, you know, like, again, it's not my thing. But as it happened, my sister was looking for a church at the time. I was like, oh, call this guy, you know, like, just happened to be this. And it was one of those, in my sister's view, like, oh, divine intervention in a way, because she's going to church. The guy, according to her, is like this, which I like I always say, I can fill libraries with what I don't know. He's the opposite, like, in terms of like theology. He just he can quote scripture and relevant, whatever. A very person-orientated person like that. So I talked to him that first time, gave him my sister's number. My sister gets baptized there. In the interim, I called him, and so I called him before I gave him my sister's info, because I was like, do you mind if I give my sister her? I feel inclined to do that. So we talked for a little bit. He talks to my sister, she goes to the church, she gets baptized there. He doesn't call me. When I call him, I was like, oh, hey, I was, you know, haven't talked to you in a while. And he's like, oh, I lost your number, I'm sorry about that. And I'm like, oh, you know, no big deal. So I gave him my number, doesn't call back. I call him again, he's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry about that, I went out of town and I lost your number. And I was like, I'm not the smartest guy, but if you lose someone's number twice, the third, you're gonna lose it a third time. But additionally, I'm like, I'm not the smartest guy again, but do you have a brother, sister? Okay, if you have a brother, and your brother gave me his number and we're talking right now, and I'm like, oh man, lost your brother's number. I just can't figure out what to do with the fact that I have no idea how to get your brother's number. I've been trying to reach out and call him, but no idea how to get your brother's number. I just
Crazy.
like, again, I'm not
How would you figure that out?
like I get it. Like, and like I say, I'm an exception because he'll do, like I say, he'll go out of his way to call my sister, which again, I don't mind. I look at it two ways.
Kinda
It's
weird.
not his thing, but additionally, if he doesn't have time, that's his thing, but that's, like I say, not my
Should
place.
just tell you then.
And that's what I say, like, and my
As
problem
a
is,
pastor, you're representing.
but
You're-
the most I get is, oh, you know what, I'm not really that knowledgeable in this, but I know someone who is. And then that person, it doesn't happen to know exactly how to talk to me, but they know someone who will, and they know, oh, a really good book to read, and then another good, I'm like,
Well, I'd say you should talk to my dad. He loves to talk about that kind of stuff, except he is a big, like, let me show you this book and this other book and this book and this crazy ass book over here. He'll give you a whole library, so he'd
And I
probably
don't
be
mind.
about the same.
I want to talk in the meantime. That's my thing. Like, because again, like I have 3 books I'm going to be reading that again, but I'm more interested in reading the Bible right now and talking about it because again, like the mistake I think I'm making again, I'm very abrasive in my speech, and so talking to my Lutheran friend when I was trying to explain to her how I want to talk to people about even like again, like I have questions like open the Bible and there's Genesis. You know, page 1 and 2. Well, I have
Huge questions
what's
right
a
off
day?
the bat.
What's a day? You know, like things like that. And she's like, well, if you want to and again, I didn't realize it until like months later when I'm thinking about this, but she says like, why do you want to argue with people? And I'm like, I didn't even understand. But what I'm saying is, again, like it's what I think I'm saying is, if I sit down with 5 Christians, they may have 5 different views of Genesis, and I don't think anyone is. I want to know them. I don't care what it is.
Right.
I just want to know what you think. But she thinks it's more of like prove that your version of Genesis is true to me, or I'm not going to speak with you. Where I'm not saying, but she's hearing that, and again, like I'm not saying she's wrong. That's my speech does that. I'm very, I say when I, even like I'll text message someone, they'll respond a certain way. I'm like, I didn't say that. And they're like, I'll look back at the message. I'm like, I see what they're saying. Even if it's not obvious, like I can see where that could be, but after the fact. So, you know, so now I do that where I type it, I read it. I'm like, how could this be taken in 5 ways
Texts
the wrong
are
way?
harder for that too, because you don't get like the nuance of like an in-person conversation. So that probably makes it a little more difficult as well.
And I'm not good at speaking via text because like I always sound angry. I don't do emojis or smiley faces. So like they don't understand it. And I don't understand, like even like a smiley face to me or like a wink face is like, so wait, you're winking. Is that like you didn't mean it or like you're sarcastic? I don't know, like how do I don't know. I'm very dumb about that. And I don't communicate well. Well, yeah.
I mean, you do
I use those terms tongue in
on
cheek.
your own. Yeah, I know what you mean, but that doesn't make you deficient in anything. It's just a different way of communicating.
But and you're not. I knew that for years. But what I realized is the onus is on me to be understood. Like I can't expect every single person to understand me because that's not going to happen. I also can't expect to be understood by everyone. But again, I need to be the one making the effort. And that's tough because, like I say, I don't know what it is. I just speak a language that it's like most people. It's a different dialect. Like they kind of get what I'm saying, but I just sound. I sound very condescending a lot, accusatory with questions. I have to preface a lot of things like this could be taken, you know, and like.
That says a lot about who you're talking to and
Everybody,
how they're
though.
viewing their perspective of the world or how insecure they are with their own beliefs.
But the flip side of that is the entire world is the issue or it's me. And if I'm going to go with those, you know, I'm going to go with it's me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's,
Well, I think-
I don't know if that's the right way to look at it.
Do you
but
get that about like every subject or primarily about...
my sister, again, my aunt said this to me, but I hear things like you talk about things people don't want to talk about. You talk about them to degrees people don't want to talk about, and you don't understand when people no longer want to talk about them. And they're right. Like I don't understand people. Oh yeah, like you know, I'm getting hungry. I'm like, yeah, let's go get dinner and keep talking. They're like, no, I want to get away from you. Like like I appreciate people. Like I say, if you said to me right now, hey, I have to go because I would like that more than wow, it's getting late because I don't pick up on those. I don't. So again, there's so many. It's like that with it could be politics. My brother with sports. It again because people want to talk about how the Red Wings are doing, right? I want to talk about, well, you know, with the trade and going back 6 years when they got rid of Helm and Abdelkader with their people like, who's Abdelkader? He hasn't been on, you know, like those are, it's just everything. I am very, I have a hard time. One of my aunts she says, like, I don't know another way to say it, but you like the words, you need to tone down your vocabulary. But I get to the point where I'm like, in order for me to talk to anybody, I just have to basically not be me. And I would rather be alone and find one person that can then again, like, walk around. And I do it, but I can't, like, that's more of like if I'm at a Christmas party and I'm talking to my cousin, I don't want to start, you know, going on to what's, you know, going on in Israel and Palestine. I would love to, but again, I say, like, that stuff matters. Like, again, like,
I think the preface of, like, how you just put it was perfect. That just that preface lets me know where I'm at with you, and that, yeah, it's not, to me, I'm like oversensitive and I pick up on too many social cues and don't know how to interpret them. It's almost like the reverse, but
I see
the
them, but
upside down.
I see them now, but now I realize how long I've been missing them and how I don't know what they mean. Like, I've been so ignorant to them. That's been a big waking up thing.
Well, it's great that you're having a waking up thing, because I think my dad's on the TISM scale somewhere, and growing up with that was hard because he didn't ever recognize it. He still wouldn't recognize it in himself. If I had just had that preface of, I need you to be direct, and these are the things I don't understand, and these are what I do understand, and when you're dealing with me, please know
that's
that if
the hardest part. Looking back, sometimes, like, man, if I just had that much sense to put out a but again,
that's
like,
hard when you're in it, you're immersed in it. It's hard to see through it, outside of it, to how others might be. So just that helps me know how to interact with you better. And I don't expect you to be different because of it. But I appreciate that information about it, because then I know how to interpret that. I'm not going to be hurting your feelings if I say, yo, I got to go. You're not picking up on my cues that I got to leave, I got to go. Because my dad does that too. Like, well, if they feel that way, they'll just let me know. Like, they were letting you know.
Yeah.
They were. They
were now I'm saying, no, they weren't, but yes, they were. That's what I'm saying. Like, even now.
They were giving you cues down the line, and you just were completely oblivious, bulldozed.
Yes. And not even, like I say, now I at least sometimes will, again, like, if we're talking, you're like, all right, got it. And I'm like, wow, is she mad? I'll at least ask, you know, but before I'm like, well, if they're mad or they're not or whatever, I may have something that upset you. Well, I would like to know an apology, you know, because if I said it to upset you, I wouldn't, like, I don't say, but I may say something that will upset someone. There's a big difference. Like, how can I make Jennifer mad today? You know, like, that's a different than saying, you know, it's a beautiful day out, but you hate humidity, so no, like, but it's not, or whatever.
I misinterpret where you're coming from with it. Yeah, that's helpful. That was nice.
Again, like, this is, it's comical to me, but I had a buddy of mine living with me. He has his daughter. Not that it matters to me, but he's black. He's a very hardcore Democrat, and I'm a centrist, if anything, but I happen to vote for Trump. But whatever.
That's unfortunate.
It is what it is. I get that. I'm not like a Trump first, Trump tattoo. He's the greatest messiah. But anyway, I didn't know he was harboring resentment towards me. He was living with me. When he came to live with me, it's because he got kicked out of his house for jail issues. But I was like, don't pay me rent. He's like, I'm insisting on paying you rent. So I'm like, I'm not going to take it, but he left it and whatever. Towards the end, while he's getting moved, it's like, now, again, one of those things where now I look back, I see the resentment, but I didn't know. Like, to me, we were just talking politics and we don't agree, but I didn't hate him. He moves out. I help him move out. One of my issues with my disability is my back. I ended up hurting my back moving his couch up the stairs. A week later, I message him, hey, you know, you want to come to Gabby's birthday? Gabby and Layla's, because they're the two that have the July, so we do the one birthday usually. And he responds back, I don't associate with racists. And I'm like, I wish you would have said that to me when you were living with me and before I blew my back out. I didn't say that. I just said, okay. But I'm thinking, like, I literally just said, okay. I'm like, I'm a lot of things. Like, I can be abrasive, rude, thoughtless. I can not, like I say, be oblivious, but I'm not racist. You were a black man with a black child living in my home who, when you went out on dates, you would say, hey, Steve, watch my kid. You weren't saying, don't touch my kid because you're a white racist. You know, like, you left your child with me to go out on a date with, you know, like, things. But then again, like, when I look back now, it was so obvious, you know. It's but at those times I'm absolutely blindsided. Again, like, I love you and your child, you don't want anything to do with me, but I'm the racist. Like, that, I'm not the smartest guy, but that doesn't make, if I was racist, I'd be like, good, F you, N-word, peace, you know. Like, that's exactly what I wanted this whole time, obviously, because that's what a racist would want with a black person like you. But I'm in tears because I didn't do anything. It was just, again, fascinating. But again, like, had I seen those coming, it wouldn't have been a surprise. It would have been at least like, hey man, bye, sorry.
Have you ever tried to talk to him since?
Yes, but he doesn't seem to get it. Like, and again, I understand this, and I'm trying to navigate this, because he hasn't, like, said I'm sorry. He just said, it was some vague, like, dismissal of it. Like I say, it was so but he has a lot of issues. Alcoholism. I say he's at, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, he's my brother's friend growing up, who I kind of, he's an Army guy. I'm a Marine, so we kind of clicked once we met through my brother again, just talking, you know.
Right.
But he's alcoholism, broken family, divorce, domestic violence, things like
standard human. Yes. Go on.
But he does not want. One thing I learned talking about my dad is there are people who, what my dad would do is oversimplified. I'm going to punch you, go to the counselor. The counselor says you're punching him because what your dad did to you. What my dad wouldn't do is say, okay, now I need to stop. You say, no, I got a reason to punch you now because you know.
Oh no.
And so he leaves the same way. No, I drink because of what happened in the middle. I'm like, no.
But then once you figure that out, you got to deal with it.
Yes, that's the problem that most people don't want, having to deal with it. Yep. And you know, and funny, like how, again, I'll use the term stupid. I don't mean that kind of tongue in cheek, but like, this is one of the biggest, again, talking about how ignorant and insulated I was. When I went to, the first time I went to therapy was, again, my dad is domestic abuse. And he is a S-tier level manipulator. Like, again, that's why I get a lot of my sociopathic tendencies, narcissistic tendencies. He can, just as a prime example, my sister was sitting with him and his woman he was dating, and after one of his divorces after my mom. And what he was doing was telling this lady about how the other lady he was getting rid of was this, and she did this. My sister's sitting there, yeah. But then she says she stopped, and he's like, wait, I was there, and none of that happened. Like, he's making this, but she had to, like, stop and kind of separate herself because she believes the lie. It's a natural thing. And I forgot what I was going on with. So therapy. We would go to therapy because if my mom, again, this is what I say, my mom kind of set me up for failure, saying, you know, we're going to go to counseling, it'll all be better. But it wasn't. What happened was my dad manipulated the therapist to such a degree that what happened was I went into therapy and said, she said, you know, what's your issues with your dad? And I'm like, A, B, C, and D. Then I went home and got my ass beat for A, B, C, and D. So she would just tell him everything.
Oh, that's inappropriate.
Now,
I don't think you had a good therapist.
Correct. But now I never seen a therapist since. So in my head, that's what therapy was. If me and you are married and we go to a therapist, she's gonna tell you everything I say.
No, that's against.
Correct. But now, so for 40 years, people were like, why don't you go to a therapist? I was like, why would I go to a therapist? Do you know, like, that, again, so, like, realizing what a real, you know, like talking about Christians, what a real Christian is versus what the Christianity I grew up with, seeing a real therapist to what a therapist is supposed to be, like, or what my experience was, I was in shock. You know, like, why didn't I do this before? But and then again, when I would look at people like they were stupid. The dumb, like, you know, like, it's like you're telling me to go chop off my hand because I have to cut my nails. No, like, do you know what that, and again, like, they wouldn't understand me, understandably, because that's not what therapy is. But in my, like I say, my insulated, narrow view, same with the church, with that, like, I've had those limited experiences and not much outside of it. Funny, like I say, I think for me personally, the fatherhood aspect of just the Bible in general, whether it's Jesus or the Father or whatever. Like, my next experience with the Father was, again, I laugh, it's not funny, but it's just par for the course. My mom got remarried again, so I'm thinking it's finally getting away from my dad and the child and being molested. And I go and to be 100% clear, this I would have given up. This life was preferable, like, but one of the first weeks I was with my mom and her new husband, and this was right around the time I was learning to drive, because that's what we were, kind of driving around the whatever student driving days. You drive with an adult.
Yep.
Pulls over with his friend in the front seat. We go to Dodge Park, not this one, Riverland, over there. Stops, and again, he's a big guy, gun collector. His buddy Steve is a big guy. They're gun collectors. I'm a young, easily intimidated guy, and at that point, like I say, I was a little runt. Like, I didn't hit until the next year that growth spurt. I was shorter than my sister. So he turns around and he's like, "You want to smoke this weed?" And I'm like, and again, like, no. And again, like, this is where I say, looking back, I think it was supposed to have been a bonding experience, which again, so now, like, it's a bummer when I said no, because I didn't smoke weed, and I thought it was a test on top of it. I never smoked weed on top of it. So I was like, "Oh no, here, just a little bit." And he's like, "I won't tell your mom nothing," like, no. And then all of a sudden he says, "If you tell your mom about this, I will fucking kill you."
Oh, well.
I will fucking kill you. Do you understand? And again, like, welcome. So that's my next father figure. But again, that was for all intents and purposes, like, that was the extent of anything that would happen. There was nothing physical.
Right.
It was just, I didn't want to be around him at that
But
point.
He was not a great guy.
Yeah, and then, like I say, that resentment towards my mom that I'm starting to appreciate is like, I never told my mom that. Like, and again, like, things like that, I say, like, the amount of forgiveness I needed to give my mom, because I didn't realize that it was a subconscious resentment. Like I say, like, I didn't understand, and even, like, so subconscious, because I say I loved her and revered her, but there was just that aspect of it that I didn't want to be around. That was it. Like, I didn't want to be around, like, if she wanted to see my kids, but it's just like I never had a desire just to straight up go because of that. It was complicated things, but again, that's weird. And then I feel bad because, like, I hope she passed from cancer 2014, but now, like I say, this is one of those moments where I legit have to think, because it's one of those things I'm hoping I think I didn't express it to her and that she wasn't reading it, but now looking back, it's one of those things where I don't know. I don't think so. I hope not, but I'll have to actually kind of consciously dwell on that, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yep.
Being that she's already passed. Yeah, that makes that takes it to the next level of difficulty. Yeah, my mom passed in 18 from cancer. That's a rough one, especially when there's unexpressed things that now you would really like to revisit with them, and you can't.
Up until this moment, I would have said I never had anything, like I say, to revisit. That was one of when, and again, my mom, for all intents and purposes, was saying. So when she passed, a lot of people were again, like, how come I didn't come over more? How, I wish I would have. And I'm like, again, like, I would call her all the time, come see the kids, come do this, we'll go to the mall, whatever. I would take her to her cancer or medical appointments during the cancer. Like, I never had that. And again, like, I think a lot of people did, but there was just, like I say, I can't think I did, because some of the conversations we had were just like, I say, like, the forgiveness, I don't want to go on a whole diatribe, but like I say, she's the one who taught me to forgive my dad in the simplest aspect, where and again, I just tell my mom, like, my dad is I didn't say this, but pretty much, I'm like, my dad is a bad person, because if you needed something, he wouldn't be there for you emotionally, he'd never talk with you, and blah blah blah. And then my mom would say, like, well, what do you do for me, like, when my car has a flat tire, when the pipe breaks, when your electric is out? Like, I don't do anything. It's like, but he does, and he's not the most, your dad, he's not the most emotional person, so that could be a good reason he doesn't reach out to people emotionally. But he knows when like I say, if your oven breaks, that could be $200-400 repair, or you can call him and he'll drop what he's doing and do it, because he just knows that would help you. That's all, that's one thing he could do. So what my mom basically taught me was, you have been selfish to your dad this whole time because he's been trying to help you, doing it, but you've been saying you're not doing it the right way, so you're dismissing it. And like,
it's a valid point.
Mhm.
You also had a valid point.
correct. But I would only saw my
yeah.
point. That was the issue. I never registered that my dad, again, if you would have told me before that if anyone would have said your dad is trying, I would have said, no, he's not. And again, my dad is probably 80% the same guy he was, but to not acknowledge that 20%, again, knowing what he went through, like, again, while he did do certain things, like I say, would go to therapy to make excuses, he did things like go to electric shock therapy voluntarily because he wanted to change, like he wanted to stop what was wrong. He didn't know what was wrong with him. Like, he's bipolar, they're misdiagnosing him, shocking him, because that's not gonna help bipolarism. It's probably gonna, if there was a thing that said we'll nail things into your toes and that's gonna help, he would try to do it to try to stop. But that's just, he has that personality where it wouldn't go the full fruition.
If you're not actually addressing the
Correct.
actual problem, it's probably not going to fix it.
So,
but yeah, that makes it more difficult that he wants to but cannot find it in himself.
Yep. No, that was it. Once I realized, like, there's, again, this realization, I think, is when I kind of maybe first started actually wanting to believe in Christ and God and heaven, because I'm like, and again, if you think about this again, to a baby who's killed, or a 6-year-old who's hit by a car, or someone who lives just an awful life, like, the fact that there is a chance that my father will have something that he can't even imagine. Like, I believe that my dad can't imagine what like I say, he could be with my grandkids right now. I'll call him and he'll make an excuse, but he'll go out on a motorcycle thing and go out to dances for these things because that's his priorities. I wish it was different. I don't know, I kind of talked myself off of the ledge right there. But my point is that he, again, presuming he gets his stuff in order with God, and like I say, from my view, where he goes up there and God's there and my dad's gonna say, let's do this, I got a lot of burning to do, like stuff to burn away. I hope, again, like that, I one of the things I struggle with a lot of other religions, and not all, but is, again, like, my dad aside, me, if I look at, again, if I believe religion is true, if we'll take that premise, and God and God's law is true, morality is true, people like me, like, again, I broke my oaths and my covenant with God. I went and broke other people's covenant with God. Like, I'm the person who should not deserve any. Like I say, I don't know, like, I think that's almost like, again, like, if you want to look at, maybe it's on par, like with murder, because again, murder, you're in essence taking God's other law and doing away with it. Like, I see it on par with that, like taking what is God's law and just violating that. And I can't, like I say, Judaism, a lot of other works religions, it's like Islam, good, it's a good luck, hopefully you did it. And again, if I realistically, if I'm going to Islam, for example, if I believe my atonement comes from my works. There's a little chipmunk over there. Do that little hole in the. But like for Islam, according to them, I broke my oaths to Allah. I'm an apostate, so like I don't have a chance in that in most other religions. And that like I say, the level of forgiveness, the realizing the difference in our human capacity to forgive than what I believe, whether you agree with it or not, is Jesus' and God's capacity to forgive. It shook me, like, because again, talking about the Dahmers, the Hitlers, the me, that if we are willing, again, not anything we do aside from willing to accept his grace, like, again, that is just crazy to me. I can't wrap I don't deserve it. Again, in the human world, the fleshly side of things, I don't deserve any of the atonement for anything I did. No human would forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me. If the situation was reversed, probably I would be hard pressed to today. It would take a lot. And I say, like, I don't know, that fascinates me. I can't wrap my head around it.
I It's nice that you're trying, though. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think you're on quite a journey.
Hey, you are too.
I am.
Everybody is, whether they know it or not. Is that oh, it's just like a. I thought it was a dog in the water, like a little
Uh-huh.
child.
It's surprising the geese and stuff aren't out here enjoying it.
Yeah, there's a lot more people than I thought would be, I should say. Especially, like I say, 2 times in my walks in my area, I found leeches.
Oh,
I saw a mink once too, though. That was really cool.
neat.
A mink.
I'm
Freaked me
not
out at
sure
first.
I would know a mink. I saw.
I didn't know what I had to look
it
it up.
looked
I didn't know
like-
if it was a ferret, weasel, mink, whatever.
Yeah,
I had to look.
right.
That's what's in Michigan.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. So yeah, a lot of times I go out to Metro Beach.
Okay.
What do they call it now? Like St. Clair Metro Park or
See, I wouldn't even know that.
whatever.
I would just call it Metro Beach still.
Yes.
If
yeah,
you called it
same
the
here.
other thing, I would have said I don't know what that
Same
is.
here. Same here. But their little nature center has a lot of nature in it.
I want to that and Belle Isle. I want to go there. My cousin keeps saying to go to Belle Isle, and it's
Uh-huh.
nice, but
There
I've been
used
there
to be
once as a kid.
eagles, but since all the, I don't know, I guess there was flooding and some of the trees died, and I think the eagles have kind of checked out for a minute. But
On my walks by the creek, I've seen the eagle twice. My sister says there's an occasional roosting spot. She lives on that little 16.5-mile strip between like Dodge Park and Van Dyke, I think it is, or Shaner.
Okay.
And I don't know where, but she says someplace on there there's some Facebook group, I guess, but there's a eagle roosting place there, and a couple places kind of local to here, which is
neat.
awesome. Yeah, I never thought I would have been on a live stream just like right here, because bald eagle just goes by. I'm like, that's amazing.
They've got eagles out at around Stony Creek. There's Inwood section of Stony Creek.
See, I've
Like
never,
it's kind of out the, like there's the nature center and like the trails by the nature center, but then if there's like a dirt road in between the nature center walk and the Inwood trails, and the Inwood trails have eagles.
really.
So sometimes you can go see them catching fish and doing cool stuff.
I want to do that. I like to get out, like with this thing especially, just put it out in the water. I had one time where I had it out in the creek. He's gonna die soon too. But I want to say there's a blue heron, and the thing flew probably this high, like you could hear the whoosh in the camera. It was awesome.
Lots of blue herons out at Metro.
Yeah.
Herons.
They're my favorite. The egrets.
Mute swans. The white egrets, which I didn't know until recently were also maybe herons or
So-
something.
Egrets are all herons, but herons aren't egrets, if that makes sense.
It
I
does.
think.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't realize.
And that's one of the rabbit holes. I say when I like, 'cause
Uh-huh.
that one, I call him homie, because in fact the first time he was out there, but the first winter I went out, I was out on one of my walks, and I didn't know they stay. Some will fly south, some will stay in and through the winter. I didn't know that. So I'm walking. Long story short, probably from me to probably this branch right here. The thing was up in the tree, and I didn't know. I got to probably right where I am, and like just all the chaos in the world took off from the tree, and I don't know if you've heard their call. It sounds like a
yeah.
dino. Scared the crap out of me.
At least it didn't scare the crap out of him. Cause...
Oh, yeah, I think I did.
Oh, no.
Because I could see. That's what I'm saying. It's one of those that, and so this one time on a day like this where the water comes, there's on my trail in the creek, there was a dead tree that got pushed in the path, and so in fact kind of like this, and there's a rock there, and I went and gave it a kick. I gave it 3, and on like the 4th kick, it moved. So I stepped through, and right here was a fawn. That was there the whole time, like because their defense mechanism is never do anything.
Right.
And I can still I can close my eyes and see the first picture of him jumping, like, because it's just, and again, scared the crap out of me. I'm like, please, Mom, don't be here, because she'll stomp me out, like, because Mom and Dear don't play around. Like, I'm like, but no, then it's just stopped like 5 feet away. It's looking at me. I'm like, what do I do? Because again, I'm like, I'm just looking for Mom. Like, don't come up. Like, go away, go. And he's like, I don't want to. I was comfortable. But again, just one, like I said, awesome experience. I said, just I could still close my eyes, and like I say, that first frame, I guess, of whatever.
Yeah, there's all kinds of deer out there. Away from, so there's the nature center at Metro, but then there's like a boat docking area where they do like canoes or paddle boarding.
I want to do this
by the marina. They have like an
Wish I had
island.
on. I would canoe in this stuff too. But
Cormorants. They have like a whole island of cormorants.
I saw
out
one
there.
cormorant one time, and people don't know what I'm like. Again, like I knew it. I'm a
They
nature
snort,
nerd, so
and they kind of sound like the herons, like a lot
Really?
of like that deep, like weird. You
I
wouldn't
never heard
expect
that.
it out of a bird kind
yeah.
of sound.
When I first heard I didn't. I was freaked. I had no idea, and I mean the thing was flying and making it, but just so not what I expected. Like,
Yeah, really neat. I don't know why more people aren't like. I was like, where are all these cormorants coming from? And I was over there, and it just nests upon nests.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really neat.
There's red-winged blackbirds, which are I grew up calling them orioles, where they got the little orange reddish thing.
Yeah.
They're water.
Shit ton out at Metro.
And but what's funny is, again, I didn't notice this until recently because I live there now by the creek, so I see them all the time. But again, like 200 yards in, you don't ever see them. Like, it's just fascinating how locked to creeks, ponds, water they are. Like, you won't see them, across here. I mean, maybe not today, but you'll see them everywhere. But just as soon as they are away from water, like, nope, not having it.
Do you know that the girls are brown and
Yeah.
don't look anything like them?
Yep.
And they have like the cutest. To me, they sound like a little robot, like maybe a Star Wars robot or something with their
I
little
confuse
call.
them with starlings sometimes because they have that kind of that weird pattern to them, like gray brown kind of, almost looks braided maybe. I don't know the term, but European starlings have that look the same. But for a long time, I didn't know that they had they were not what sexually dimorphic, I think is the term, or so yeah. It's a couple other like I can hear the cardinal is one where they're that the females were that kind of like
a little more brown.
showing off, yeah.
Less showy, so nobody can find their nest. Yep. Pretty neat. But yeah, you should check out Metro.
I need to.
Yeah,
I need to get
they've got a
I'm
lot.
very hard, like days like this. I'm like, you can either drive here or right outside, and like everyone says that go, but I'm like, I don't like driving. Like,
it is a bit of a hike.
but it's worth it. It's someplace new too.
It's a smaller Metro park, but they've got a lot packed in there.
Kids just waist deep.
Helmet on.
And I didn't even think they could just go right back into the water, the splash pad, and just kind of rinse off.
There you go.
I may call my kids, see if they want to do it. I think I was gonna go and edit this, which is not much, but just let it play. I may just go home, get the waders. See, now I want to charge these and bring it. Like, I have the chest harness thing, and I just want to walk around in this. I say maybe see some turtles and frogs, some snakes. Probably nothing here though. Yes, I never got to do this growing up. So, what did you come here for? Just get away, relax? I think we kind of said just
come and walk, but my walk was impeded by.
And that's what I meant to do. Is it something you do daily? Like, is it something random or?
I always like to try to find somewhere different to walk.
Okay.
It's boring to walk